Surfing has always been, I think, unusual as a sport because the way it was journalized or the way it was covered in special interest magazines was pretty good. And Severson set the bar pretty high in his own way because he was an intellectual guy. And the sport's really an aesthetic, kind of covered with a gravy of yo dude. So, there's different parts of the sport that you can acknowledge, and the surfers that are surfers for life have some serious feelings of connection to what they experience in the water, and when you celebrate that, I think it's important to them.
Surfing it's one of those useless sports, has no value to society, but it's super important. I don't know of any other sport where people are as passionate about it. Let's put it this way. My house is on fire. My wife runs in and grabs all the photo albums. I grab my collection of surfers' journals. I mean, that's saying a lot. You know, I've read every single article that's ever been published in Surfers' Journal. Every single one. And I haven't ever found a bad one. The story is phenomenal. Every one of them is just incredible.
There's a Romanowski kneeboard, kind of a homage to Reno, of course.
Yeah.
And then that little gun was made by John Gray, shaped for Hobie, and that was made in 1971.
John Gray, I used to hang out with him a lot.
The startup of the journal was really a lot about the timing in our lives on a personal level, and doing something, feeling good about something, needing to do something and kind of leave a mark.
Yeah. My idea was to communicate in a way that would be universally interesting to all levels of surfers. And it's not that ours is the only way to see it or express it. There's a lot of aesthetic, artful ways to see something and describe it and share it with someone else. And that's really what the journal is. It's a gallery where it creates an opportunity for people to share their feelings about surfing on that level. It doesn't have to be our point of view. I think we're really just a delivery device.
How many people do you know that have tried to be the best in the world at something? When I think of Surfer Journal, it is the best magazine in the world, bar none.
It's exactly what it is 20 years later. It was the same idea we had. 6 sponsors, readers supported. We believed in the message and we believed in our values, and had no idea if there were enough people out there that would support the values of non-commercialism.
You know, when you start a magazine, it's like the restaurant business. They just generally fail, and small business startups generally fail. So the fact that this worked was kind of like a miracle on 34th Street or something. It just was highly unlikely.
And it was at a very scary time. It was 91, 92, in the middle of a recession.
And we put our life savings into it without even a blink.
Well, I blinked.
You blinked. Yeah. But it just didn't seem like, it wasn't a big risk, it was just this excitement. And the more we thought about it and described it to ourselves, the more it sounded like something that I was absolutely certain would work.
What these guys did was a real risk. I mean, you know, mortgaging your house. But that's what you do if you're an entrepreneur. Rather than go work for the man, you risk it all.
You know, the funny thing was, before we'd publish an issue, we did a mail drop, and we designed a pretty sophisticated kind of high-tone package that treated the journal as if it existed and explained what it was going to be and asked people to subscribe and send us $37.50, I think it was. So we went to the P.O. box after we dropped the mail, you know, after about 3 or 4 days, we just kind of started looking for things, nothing. A week or so, nothing. Then one day we went there and the P.O. box was stuffed, and then it overflowed into a plastic tub that they had. And Debbie, we opened the P.O. box and Debbie said, "Bingo!" It was that moment kind of.
I actually screamed bingo.
we realized that we had a shot. The thing about Patagonia that struck us was that their aesthetic, we thought, made them someone that we hoped would see what we were up to and would be willing to support it, because they didn't always do things for money. They did things to support aesthetics. So that gave us courage to ask them if they'd support us.
There's a lot of similarity there and a lot of idealism. And market-wise, we only want to appeal to the 10%ers, the ones that appreciate quality and have the same values. And I think same thing with the journal.
Who was it, Bruce Brown, that said, I make movies for myself and I hope other people like them? That's kind of what the Surfer's Journal is. We talk story about things we believe in and hope other people respect it.
Finally, I found a voice for myself, because I felt the same values in the same way that the journal conveyed.
The creative process of the magazine, where you're thinking up titles and writing captions and writing all the glue that holds stuff together, you're espousing a point of view and all of that that's kind of subtle. It's not an outright statement, but everything's infused with a certain attitude or perspective on things that comes from, from your heart, from your soul, and from, a long time of being around the sport.
If you got a clear direction of what you want to do, and the direction is towards increased quality, you can't go wrong.
So we followed the list of what we loved about
Yeah, what was
publishing.
good about it, and we did that.
And we're still doing it.
Yeah.
20 years later, we're still doing what we love about it, and we're not doing any of what we
And
don't
luckily for us, the surf world was an enabler for our self-indulgence.
The biggest stoke is when I got the announcement of the 20-year thing, they also announced that they're joining 1% for the planet. And that blew me away. That was fantastic. That's a big commitment, because that means if you have a year where you're not profitable, it's 1% of sales. So that is a serious commitment. And it means they're going to be around for a long time, and it means that they want the planet to be around for a long time.